Here.
Essig,
Here.
Butler, Knopfsinger, Fisher,
Here.
McNabb,
Here.
Armstrong.
Here.
Okay. And Daniel Roper, Hughes, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So the visitors and correspondence, you're our star for this evening. You want to come up and tell us a little bit about your National Merit Scholarship and what it detailed or anything you want to tell us?
Yeah, so ultimately the scholarship stems from the practice SAT that students can take, I think it was junior year? Yeah, I think it's in the fall of junior year. And basically by taking that test, students also enter themselves into the National Merit Scholarship competition, I guess. And so then you go through a process of if you get a high enough score, you become a semi-finalist, and you have to fill out some paperwork and write a small essay and stuff. And if they like that well enough, you get to be a finalist and possibly earn a scholarship like I did. So it's cool.
We're very proud of you. We talked about you last month a little bit. You weren't here because you were, I believe, at a band concert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we know you're a busy person, so we appreciate you taking the time to come in to talk to us this evening. And it's quite an honor, and we're happy for that. We have a National Merit Scholarship Award to hand out to you, so I'll go ahead and give that to you if you'd like. Thanks for coming in and helping us out. Thank you. Congratulations.
Very impressive.
If you happen to make it to senior awards, Daniel's name called a lot. He had an outstanding career here, so well done.
Can you tell us where you're planning on, what you're doing after school?
Yeah, I'm going to Rice University down in Houston, study either computer science or electrical engineering.
Well, that's what she's doing.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Represented us very well.
Okay, we're moving on to a public hearing, number 5. And Dr. Sander, did you want to discuss
Sure.
that with us a little bit?
Okay, the first part of the public hearing is this is all the legalities. It just says anytime that we do a fund transfer from the education fund to the operation and maintenance fund, we need to have a public hearing. And so the next portion here is some of the background information in regards to the hearing. These are the dates, the key dates on May 8th, 2017. This is going back a year ago. The Board of Education approved a recommendation from the Finance Committee to designate $1,540,658 of year-ending education fund balance. And this is for the designated funds project where we set aside funds in the O&M account for future facility needs. On September 11th, 2017, the board approved the budget, which included a funds transfer. And then we did have a legal notice as per the Illinois School Code. And then the Finance Committee did meet on April 17th, 2018 to discuss the fund transfer, and then we're here to this point where we'll be moving forward. So moving on to the second part of the hearing, we'll need to do these 3 steps here. And then there will be a formal action. We approve the resolution in the hearing, and then there will be a formal action to approve in the regular agenda.
Thank you. Is there anyone present who wishes to comment on the fund transfers? If so, I don't believe there is. Okay, then we can move on. So there are no comments, so nothing will be recorded that anyone wanted to talk at the public hearing. And shall read the resolution on the roll call vote later in this agenda. I make sure I do everything I'm supposed to there. Moving on to reports. Oh, I also, okay. The hearing is officially closed, and we'll be moving on to number 6, reports. Thank you.
Hey, Dr. We need to approve the resolution in the public hearing. And so,
Oh,
um,
okay, hold on,
yep.
let me
And then
pull it up.
there's an
just a
action
second.
item.
That was not, do I read, I have to read that whole thing?
You can just read the resolution at the top.
Okay, so we're opening the hearing back up. It's not officially closed because we're going to do the resolution. The resolution authorizing the transfer of funds from the Education Fund to the Operation and Maintenance Fund of the Washington Community High School District Number 308 in Tazewell County, Illinois. Is there a motion to accept the resolution? So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Armstrong?
Yes.
McNabb?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Essing?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now the public hearing is officially closed. Okay, now we are moving on to reports. 6.1, Dr. Freeman.
Dean's reports, you can see a number of them there. If you have any questions, that would be a good time to ask.
One thing I wanted to ask Dr. Freeman, over a period of many years, the skipped, the detention has been such an issue. I mean, the students are assigned to the Saturday detention, and they don't go. Now, I'm sure this has been addressed many times to try to find out how to make this more ability to enforce it. But are there any new approaches that we haven't tried to get the students to get in there then, rather than getting another put down another program because they didn't follow through when we tried to take the lower level remediation of discipline issues?
Well, I think we still have a good number of kids that do follow through with it. And so
We only see the ones who don't, so
That's
I don't know
correct.
how many do.
that's good. And I think that's part of the issue. I mean, often when you work in a dean's office, you kind of live by a 5% rule. 5% of your population takes up 95% of your time. And I think what you're seeing there is the same issue. Those kids that are missing Saturday detention in a lot of cases are the same kids. They're not interested, and so they end up
Attitude,
escalating.
basically attitude.
Yeah, and I think that occurs. So we've talked about it. Right now, with the care program being what it is, it seems to be a good option because they're not necessarily out of school and they are able to continue with their educational, at least their homework, and get a little bit of help because our care supervisor usually will help. And when he can't, he will find somebody who can if they have questions that he can't answer. So I think we found that as a better route in recent history, but it's something we'll continue to review and look at.
They just seem to pull it off so easily. It's a shame because it's the first opportunity to take care of them. But then we can only do so much. I recognize that.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on to 6.2, that would be the enrollment report. That was self-explanatory. If anyone had any questions, now's the time to talk about that. Okay. Moving on to 6.3, Dr. Joe Sander.
Okay, there's a couple of reports here. I'd like to hit on the financial snapshot for May. The top part is the language that was changed in the when the governor signed the budget, reducing the TRS from 6% cap down to a 3% cap. There was just another correspondence that came out today. It looks like our our agreement will be grandfathered. So as we sit right now, seems like that will not affect us until we get to the end of our 3-year bargaining agreement with the WEA. Listed below this is our revenues to expenditures. I do want to point out that after tonight, when we make the transfer of $1.5 million, you'll see that on the expense side get listed, and then you also see a $1.5 million revenue hit that. So next month, we'll be closing up everything for the fiscal year. On the investment report, just want to indicate here that the $3.5 million that the bond proceeds are listed in here. So we're currently just under $9 million in investments, and we have made over $5,000, almost $6,000 in the investment on the bond proceeds. And so that's really nice to see, collecting that additional revenue before we get to start paying on these projects. And then our insurance report, that graph there is a very good graph. Anytime that you have 3 out of your 4 months that are up below the, what I call the break-even line, it's good. And so our health trust is continuing to grow, and we were able to, actually roll into the next year and have a reduction in our premiums, which doesn't really happen in today's day and age. But so the insurance program has been a big success over the last year. So what questions does the board have?
Is there an automatic summer drain on that because some health issues that need to be addressed that are very legitimate take place in the summer when the teachers aren't teaching?
That's a great question, and I would love to be able to answer that and say some years, yes, we've seen it, and then other years, people don't go to the doctor as much. It's really, we collect trend data, and I try to go back and see where our spike and our claims, if we can draw any conclusions from that. And the best conclusion is it varies from year to year. It's really hard to nail down.
What comes up, what
Right.
the needs are.
Exactly.
Any other questions? Thanks for putting that together, Dr. Sander. That was a nice presentation. It's easy to follow since you changed those around. So thank you. Moving on to board committee reports, 6.4. Some committees met since the last monthly board meeting. We had a special goal planning session meeting last Monday, correct? There was facilities and insurance. Facilities, our minutes are in here. We could talk about, Chris, you want to talk about that a little bit? Or you want me to do
It's
it?
a bit of a blur from one another, but I mean, I think quite a bit of activities on the facilities, the bid package, and I think came together, and we tried to rationalize what was going on, what wasn't, what might compromise time, what might not, and I think we cut them loose last week, so but or at least authorize them, so the things that we can place to get going. So it's good that we're getting. I think there's some headwinds. The general economy is going to be good this May for some material costs. So everybody's coming together.
So we just released the authorization for the bids. They released it the next day. I believe they're out for bids right now. We had some alternates on there. There was a discussion on the track expansion. Barnesburg is going to come back and give us some options on that. And then, as we spoke about last week, there would be a breakdown of the stadium project prices versus the full complete and chorus addition area.
The other thing we discussed were the roof bids,
Oh, that's
which are
right.
also out.
The roof bids for the horseshoe,
Yes.
what do you call that? And those bids are out to you, is that correct?
They are.
Okay. And those bids will be coming in on the 28th, is that correct? The
Yes.
due date's the 28th?
We actually have pre-bid meetings, I believe, this Wednesday. So we'll be meeting with potential contractors on Wednesday. We'll get our first heads up on what we're looking at.
Hopefully there'll be many attending that want to bid the project.
Mm-hmm.
Insurance met, I believe, did they? And you just kind of spoke about that a little bit.
We met at the tail end of May, And then so we just had a virtual meeting this last Wednesday. So we just updated the insurance committee on some of the reports. We didn't need to meet within 2 weeks of the other meeting.
The only other one I'm kind of wondering, Jennifer, did you report anything out on 5 Points since you're a 5 Point rep? I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but we haven't heard anything.
Nothing much, really. The parking lot, I think I talked to you about it. I don't know if you followed up on that. We're, I guess, still kind of talking about whether or not we want to continue with that this summer. And I think I shared that with you, and I don't know what happened after that.
I think we do. My last conversation with Brian or Vicky, either one of them brought it up, but I'll touch base with them again and see
Right.
where they're at.
I mean, I think for us,
It was pretty
it worked
easy.
out pretty nice. I think they had a couple little issues that we just need to follow up with.
And there's quite a few students that utilize that.
A little over 100.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other board committee reports that I didn't mention? No finance, no curriculum? No. All right. Moving on to informational and discussion items. Dr. Freeman, you're up to tell us about your board goal updates.
Okay, I can give you most of the board goal updates. As you know, we usually do this in August so that we get all our July numbers. But we're catching up on a couple of other reports. So we'll go through this same report real quick. We know what the board goals are. Let's start with this slide. I think this is a good one. Student success was 75% the last time we met. We're still at 75% because we're waiting for the final numbers for the semester to come in. That way we can fill out the dashboard and kind of complete that end of it. Programs and services, 95% complete. And basically that's tied to the reason it's 95% complete is there were a lot of big changes at ICC over the course of this year. And so we didn't get as far as we would like to have been able to get on CTE programming, but I do think that the changes they've made will allow us to really start to work with them and try to figure out good pathways for our kids. So that was more on just them trying to reorganize their house to better work with high schools. And they've done a nice job with that. So I'm not throwing them under the bus with it. They had some things they wanted to do, which threw us back a little bit on this particular goal, but that's okay. That gives us somewhere to go with it in the future. Finance, I put 100% down because basically we are now just wrapping up what's left. And it does appear by all of our reports that we're on track with where we need to be for all of that. Facilities, same, 100%. Communication, 95%, and Ann's going to talk a little bit about communication when we get to that part of this report. So let's talk about the goal. Highlight student success. I just mentioned what was going on with that, and really you see it here on this slide as well. We will develop that historical analysis by putting in the newer slides and then beginning to really look at what we are seeing so that we can talk about, are there levers that we want to pull coming from that student success, those figures. So we need to just kind of wrap up the year and get everything buttoned up. Programs and services, we are in a good place here. We explored the opportunity for juniors to enroll in Strong Start program, which we were able to offer that. I believe there were at least 4 juniors who took us up on it. So that's good, that's exciting. Work with faculty to implement the strategies and practices that were discussed in the book study, Teach Like a Champion. We have begun that process. So we talked about this a little bit last week when we were talking about the goals themselves. With this particular goal, you have to look at the PD and the book study the way that we have, which is 2 years of introduction, a couple years of implementation before it becomes practice. What we are looking to do is that progression to make a difference in the classroom with what we do and what the teachers do with their students on a day in and day out basis. We do feel like we've made good progress. And in talking to the department chairs, they've been very pleased with the direction we've gone, the PD committee as well. And we feel like that the conversation around education within the school has changed. See, a lot of this is cultural. We're trying to build that culture of education and getting teachers to sit together and talk about what they are doing to make their classes more effective is one of the most powerful tools that we can possibly have. And they now are doing that more frequently. We're hearing more and more of it in the hallway. So we're excited about where this is going. I do plan on bringing Karen in to talk a little bit at the next goals meeting about where we are and what the plan is moving forward. I had a good chance to sit down and talk with her about it. She was looking at this as a 6-year plan, and we are going into year 3 of a 6-year plan. So that will help kind of put this into more concrete terms for the board and give you that good balcony view of what you want to see from PD. Work with faculty to implement, we just talked about that. Evaluate current instructional technology programs, and I mentioned that too, that we are going to be working with ICC as we move forward. And I believe this will probably stay in the realm of one of the goals, one of the actions that I think we need to continue to look at. As we hear in the news frequently, there are changes in what the job opportunities that are out there, and kids that are graduating from college are finding it more difficult to get positions. But in the world of tech, in the world of business, especially in the IT world where you're talking about some of the trades, there are a lot of jobs open. And so making that something that's more available, more understood by our student body, I believe will help us as we move forward and be very beneficial to our kids. There are a lot of great careers out there that have been made in this area. And people are making wonderful livings and being able to do great things for their families. And we need to show our students that that is a potential. So, finance. FY18 will end with an operating surplus. Looks good, we're on track. Maintain designated funds within the fund balances to provide resources for future significant foreseeable expenditures. We have done that. As a matter of fact, one of the things we're doing tonight is filling the O&M fund to be able to have the money there that we've allocated for it. So that's important. That's what that transfer is all about. Maintain a trough plan for the district. And we did talk about that trough plan early on this year in our finance committee. Everybody seems very pleased with where we're at. We're keeping an eye on our lines to make sure that we're moving in the right direction financially. Facilities. The administration developed a plan, and by the way, all of these are complete. There wasn't a way to put that on one slide without just making this one big complete slide. The administration developed a plan to respond to growing enrollment, which we are currently out to bid on. That was the plan of adding the addition for the music program, repurposing their current space into classrooms. That's a huge part of what is going on, so that we have enough classrooms to be able to support our student growth. We will continue to work with the Facilities Committee on an annual basis to conduct summer upgrades of approved building and grounds and to identify, report safety, preventative maintenance, or other costly facilities issues as they arise. And we did meet and we did discuss the summer projects list in one of our earlier facilities meetings. I want to say it was in March timeframe, but I might be off a month. March, April is the established timeframe to select the summer projects and coordinate with staff to ensure that they are completed. We did all of that. And the administration selected a comprehensive maintenance software program for buildings and grounds. We'll get that fully implemented in this coming year, and teachers will be trained on the new software during the opening institute. I put that in blue because that's a little different than what you saw in the last report out. So that training is going to occur that first day when the teachers are back. And then we are at communications. And at this point, I believe I will turn the floor over to Mrs. Bradford. I know she's excited, so.
Can I ask a couple questions about what we
Yes.
have gone over? So on the student success, you say we're 75% done. Are we going to add categories to that, or we're just?
No, we just need to fill in. We're missing data. That's why it's 75% done.
Okay.
We still don't have all the attendance data. We don't have the GPA data finalized yet.
But I mean, won't that just be an ongoing process?
It is, but the goal was to get that all completely done this year by this time. Well, by the end of the report out time, which actually is scheduled for August, it will be done on time for the goal.
But I mean, every
Right.
year are we going to bump it back and then back up again? Or are we just going to consider that just, I mean, as, looking at it as a goal, I guess I'm thinking that's really just something we need to maintain, and it's not so much a goal, right?
Well, the reason that we put it as a goal originally was
Originally.
to begin the development of that process. Then, the secondary purpose for it sitting in the world of goals is because we should be looking at that and determining what do we want to focus on. For example, do we want a goal that's tied to attendance? Do we want to see if we move that lever, will that help improve success for students? Do we want something more directed at college testing and SAT results? So that's why that sat there in goals world. I'm not saying it has to remain there, but that's why it was there as we came into this year, was more to give us a way to look and evaluate and determine what we want to do as we move forward in those categories that we've laid out in the success area.
And I've said this to you many times, but I'd like to see specific, like our SAT, we have a range, but I feel like when you click on it, you should be able to see what our average score is, because I know that's how many people look at if you compare schools, as well as the same with the AP and dual credit classes. I'd like to see more specifics. You know,
What
we
do
have
you-
5 AP classes and 6
Okay.
dual, so that when we see our progress, we can, you know, we can say, okay, well, we added one, or we got, you know, because I know with ICC now, we're dual credit, that's,
It's
you know,
interesting.
it's a, yeah, right. But I would like to see, not necessarily the main thing, but when you click on it, it'd be nice to see the actual specific
Gotcha.
numbers.
So when you hover over it, you
Yeah,
want the
you would see,
background to
okay,
be a
this is
little
how
more.
many AP, this is how many dual credit, this is what our actual average SAT is. Because when you get a range and you look at it as a parent, that makes it a little hard to know where your child is.
I think the range showed up at first because we were still kind of back
And I
comparing
think
with
that's
ACT. You know, if we can get a little more specific now, that should work.
I think both of them are good information.
That data also varies from class to class.
It does.
About where we are, so depending, that can fluctuate, and we certainly need to keep a careful eye on it so we don't start to see any downward trends.
And that makes
I think that's the important word, trends. We just need to make sure that we're trending the way we want to trend.
In a right pattern.
Yeah, because a one-year spike could be driven by a whole plethora of issues. If anything goes wrong in the school on testing day, you're going to see a drop in test scores. And that's the problem with a test like that. It's a one-day snapshot instead of a good view of the world. That's why we try to look at 3 to 5 year trends and try to keep it in that balance. So
Which eventually we'll have, as we
Yes.
continue to document it or whatever.
exactly. So we were in year 2 of SAT this year. So next year we actually get to year 3.
Never know.
So this is kind of just an off the question from that. So I know kids can take the SAT more than one time. And obviously, they're going to go with their highest one when they go to the college. Is that the report we get out, or do we just get out that one particular day?
You know, I couldn't tell you. I know with the ACT, they actually, any student that tied it back to the school, because they also can ask for whether or not those results go back to their home school. And some kids actually won't.
Really?
Yeah. So they won't release it to us, and we can't gain access to it
Okay.
unless they release it to us. So the way they did it with ACT was, yes, if a student did release it back, we got the higher score that, but not every kid did release it back, so we didn't always see the highest possible scores that we received.
Okay.
So
I
I
was
think
kind of
that's
curious, because I know there's some students that choose to take it a couple of times.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them do. I think it just depends on the student as to whether or not we get their results.
Right, and their score helps them get scholarships if they're
It does.
motivated to raise their score.
Sure it does.
We should get the results if it's the state-sponsored one.
We get all of
We get those
back.
results.
Yes.
It's just, we're
The ones
not
that-
maybe getting the
well,
second
yeah,
or third one
yeah,
that the
right.
kid does.
Right.
And there could be, I mean, with the ACT, there could be a 3 to 4 point difference in their first and their third attempt. So it's nice to have the higher on that, because every time you
Yeah.
get that, it bumps your average up.
Maybe we can encourage them to give us their
Oh, we do.
Okay.
We do a lot of encouraging.
All right,
It's still up to the individual kids, though. so.
sure.
To go back to what Jennifer said,
Hmm?
I feel like the student success factor, like the goal was to create this kind of document where we have the data presented, right? And we've selectively chosen what data to put there. And I think you were kind of, part of what you started with was Like, have we completed that? Can we check it off and move a new goal in? And I mean, to that end, I would say, now that it's developed, it seems like, I think personally, we could check it off and take it off of the goals thing, because the data isn't an end in itself. Data, as you know, is actually what we use to get to our end. But we didn't have the data in a clear format that we could kind of show the community. So now that we have that, it seems like we would use that, and we would be now focusing on student success, other student success things that we want to focus on. And then we might change out what data is in the student success factor
Dashboard.
dashboard. Thank you. Had to get my terminology
That's
there.
what I was saying.
I know where you were, though.
Yeah. But I think, does that, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So.
And I think that was a good part of the discussion last week. We don't often get to have back-to-back board meetings, but we did this time.
Yes.
So it's still fresh enough discussion that we did have a good conversation around that, I believe. And I think that was the direction I was hearing a lot of people talking about going. You know, student success being one of them. Another goal that we were going to talk about is communications. And there was some discussion about whether or not that needs to remain a goal, or if it needs to be a practice that we evaluate. So I think that moving forward, we will see tweaks in these. But for tonight, I'm just kind of reporting out on where we are currently with.
Yeah, it's perfect. I just heard reference to future, and I just wanted to make sure we were staying on
Right.
track with where we had been.
Yeah, because I think it looks like we're in really good shape on these goals.
We are.
Like I said, most of them are just going to be maintenance.
We've made good headway. I feel like what we've done over the past 2 years with the 5 categories that we're in has been very valuable. And I'll say that no matter what you do as a Board of Education, I think you always end up with a finance goal. So I assume that finance will always be on there. And no matter what you do as a Board of Education, you end up with a facilities goal. Now, when you get into the other areas, when you start talking about student success, communications, those might leave. And we may be looking more into programs, and we may even change the titles a little bit. So you might have programs, you might have instruction, you might have a number of different things that can sit out there. So I think that's something we need to think about as we get into the next round, and I do hope to meet with everybody in July so we can start to at least finalize a version of this going into next year. But I do feel like the big one will be next year. We need to start this maybe in January and really have that conversation. Even though we're not done with last year's goals, we should be far enough into them that we can talk about where we might want to go in some of those areas. So I think that'll work out well for us.
Another reason I think the finance part must stay on, now that we have this concept of long-range planning, doing all the research of when were things bought, when were they, all repair dates, the estimated lifetime of a big system here in the school. I think that's one of the best things we've done financially with this long-range planning and not being caught by things that come up that we didn't anticipate. And we weren't terrible about it, but I think this is so much better. It's just such a good plan, so practical. And I really want to see this go on.
And I agree, and I can use a great example. It was not difficult to move forward on repairing the roof this year. That was not difficult because we knew we had the money available. We knew we'd put the foresight into it to know that the roof was going to go. And that's kudos to the board for the work that you did to get us there, to be able to say, no, we set aside money for that. We need to spend it on that. And that's where we're going.
Well, it was a process to be able to get to that point
It was.
to say, to be able to start putting it away. But as each board hopefully in the future continues it, it'll make their job a little bit easier instead of trying to come up with, example, 600,000 possibly to fix and repair the roof. So, and so we'll be going to designated funds for this next year, which we're going to be transferring the funds. I think the public is pretty happy that we're looking at it that particular.
I agree. All right. If there are no more questions on the first 4 goals,
Sorry, I just.
No, you're okay.
Until we were all done.
You're fine. And as we go on, any questions that you have, that's perfectly fine. I'll turn it over to Ann. She can talk about communications.
Okay. So I just wanted to give you an update on where we're at with the communications goal. One of the first things we had in the list of goals for this year is to focus on some key message areas, whether we're communicating within the school, with the community, with the parents, just some key message areas to focus on and kind of continually beat the drum beat, just to keep them in the forefront of everyone's mind. So the areas that we focused on were facilities projects. As you remember, we did a lot of communications at the time, some FAQs, a section dedicated on the website and things like that. Really tried to tell the community about what's going on. And actually, Dr. Freeman and I will be working on some materials for hopefully maybe end of July range to have the community come in and see maybe like a short presentation with some visuals of maybe what the addition will look like and maybe have some costs by then, just to let the community come in and learn more about that before really things start rolling. The second was student accomplishments and events. So on our Facebook page, the website, Twitter, and things like that, even internally with like the staff newsletter, really focusing on what the students are doing well in the school, both academically, in athletics, fine arts, just any area the students are involved in and good things are happening, we wanted to report out on that. And also just keeping the events coming up in the school very available to the community. That was done through Panther Press. We create events on Facebook just to let the community and the parents and students know when things are going on in the school. And then also growing enrollment. Really that was kind of an underlying reason for some of the facilities projects. So we wanted to really make sure people understood the trajectory the school was on for growing enrollment and what we're facing in the future. The second thing was to do a follow-up survey. We wanted to know how we're doing and to do some measurement on that. So we did a survey back in I think the 2016-17 school year. So we wanted to conduct a similar survey this year just so we could kind of compare them and see where we're at. So that's completed at this time and I'll go into a little more information about that. Also wanted to analyze the readership on social media and the website. So we've done a little bit of that. I have a little more work to do, but I will get that out in a packet to you probably within the month. And then the last thing that's still slightly in process is the school motto. We have one kind of on the table, but we just need to maybe look at it again and see if that's what we want to settle on. So I already went over the key message areas that we focused on this year. Just a little touch on the parent and guardian survey results. We're looking at about the same percentage of satisfaction from last year to this year. So we went up just a little bit. So they answered that they're either extremely satisfied all the way down to somewhat satisfied. So it sounds like from the survey results, they like how we're communicating and are pretty happy with it. This second section was actually it was surprising to me in a good way, but I just wanted to bring it to your attention. Part of what we want to do is share information in a timely manner, whether it be positive or negative, okay? So we actually saw quite a bit of a jump in both of those categories. So out of the respondents, 63% last year felt we shared positive information in a timely manner, and now 75% feel that we are. So we're doing a better job at that. And then also with negative information, that actually jumped up a little bit more from 69% up to 84%. I can see maybe this year why. We had, some occasions this year to communicate things that were either going on in the nation or particularly with the school, but we did it in a timely manner. For the most part, we heard that parents were satisfied with those communications and felt like they knew what was going on. We wanted to measure what they want to know about, and what we heard back was they want to know about school news, grades, and schedule of events. And then the preferred ways they want to receive communications are email, phone, website, and Skyward. It's good that they like email because that's also what they rated as how they receive information the most. So it looks like we have a good match there. And then we also received a lot of verbatim comments that I'll summarize in a report out to you, but they were very positive and helpful. So I see some areas that we can continue to improve on in there with suggestions, which I was really glad to see that. Social media. So I wanted to measure over about a 3-month period how we're doing on Facebook. So we're up to 1,900 followers since we started the page. We've increased 300 followers just since October last year. So we're moving up in the number of people who like our page. 75% of our followers are women and 24% are men. And then out of that, about 60% range in age from 35 to 54, which makes sense because that's probably the age range of like the parent population who would be most interested in the school. So down here in the lower left, monthly page engagements. That's how many unique visits we have to Facebook in a month. So as you can see, it can vary month to month, probably depending on what we're reporting or what's popular with people. Peak range was interesting to me. It looked like in December we had 11,786 people that saw information on our Facebook page come across their screen. So probably with something like that is a particular post was being shared a lot. And so of course all their friends see it and their friends' friends may see it. It continues to compound from there. So for Twitter, we have 1,580 followers. And as you can see over those 3 months they're listed, the impressions are a lot higher on Twitter, and that's anytime our information goes across someone's Twitter feed. And I think the reason is because the rate of sharing on Twitter I've noticed is a lot higher. You know, people retweet and it hits all of their followers' pages too. So I think it has a much broader reach on our Twitter account. Plus we have, I think, a bigger audience out there. Some universities follow us. Different, area sports reporters follow us. So we just have a lot of followers that have a much broader range than the parents on Facebook. So that's what we're looking at for Twitter. Now it comes down to one of the areas that we would like to maybe finish up this year, which is the tagline. Right now what we're currently piloting on the trifold that you can see a picture of on the left side there is excellence and pride in education. So we actually did put a survey out to the staff. I believe it was maybe fall of this year or later last year. We kind of had a 50-50 response rate on it. Nobody had anything horrible to say about it, but I would say 50% were supportive, 50% just were kind of maybe indifferent. So don't know if there's some room to change there or if it might be okay as is. But in general, these are some different pieces that have been created over the year. You'll see a slight change in the colors of orange, which is one of the things that continues to plague me. But printed pieces will look different on screen versus when they're printed, so don't pay too much attention to the color orange there. I try to make it as consistent as possible. But we have the branding on the website, Twitter, Facebook, different pieces I've made for Karen, which is the SAT exam guide and the early college program guide. So anytime we're making something, whether it be letterhead, any communication, we're trying to brand it consistently and have it with a look and feel that's common to Washington High School. So at this time, that's what I have as far as a report for communications. I would like to create a summary of the survey that we did and get that information out to you in the next month. I'll send last year's too, so you can kind of see it side by side. We did not get a lot of responses right now from community on their survey. So I would like to cast the net a little further on that and see if I can get a good enough response rate to do a summary for that too. But the survey is out, it's just we don't have as many responses as I would like at this time. So that information will probably be a follow-up also.
That may be positive.
Maybe no news is good news.
Terribly controversial.
Yeah, exactly. Did you guys have any questions?
I just believe it's hard for reaching the community because everyone still has so many different ways where they get their information. You know, there's still some people that get through the newspaper print, and then some people like the newspaper online and Facebook, Twitter. So
Right.
you got a hard area to try to cast the net to get all the places where people are busy trying to get their information.
Yeah,
And you did a really nice job putting that together.
Good.
And I would just compliment, you and the administration have done a great job. And I know, a lot of it's hard for government entities because, so often we're beholden to the taxpayers. So I think there's a fear of putting information out there because you feel like, well, people are going to get mad and try to change it and so on and so on. But I think if you give people the information, then, and you've made responsible decisions and you provide clear information, I think they generally find they agree. But it's hard to package that the right way so that people can consume it quickly and get the good. But you've done a really nice job. And the other thing that's interesting with social media is it's a lot of a conversation. And I mean, I'm sure you see that, but it's really a conversation. And if you give people the tools to talk about stuff, then they'll stand up for what they think is right, which like a building project and so on. So I think as you feed that information out, I think you probably see it, because I know you monitor Facebook a lot, I think. And I think you probably see them using information that you put out to defend the school sometimes too. And so that's neat, so it's nicely done.
And I'll let you wrap that up then.
Well, the wrap-up is, in July and August, we'll do the final version of this report out. We'll talk about student success, and we plan on getting a communication summary packet out to everyone once we get it completed. So we're in good shape.
As far as the communication, I know it's almost 100% complete. There's a couple of things I know within the board we've worked with improving our communication, and that's one of the goals I'll talk to you about. It's not anything to worry about. It's just an easier way for us to communicate through our emails and target letters. But we are planning another goal meeting, right? And that's going to be in July. Did we get a date on that yet?
I'm still waiting for everybody to give me their July availability.
Okay. So
So,
once we get that, we'll figure that out.
yes.
Any other questions for Dr. Freeman's board goals updates and Ms. Bradford? Nicely done, thank you. Moving on to 7.2, I believe.
Joint annual conference.
There we go. So that's a discussion item. What would you want more for us?
Just want to make you aware that we don't have the registration information yet, but we do expect it to come out here very soon. And in order to get your pick of the place that you want to stay in, you'll need to let us know right away if you're planning on going. So if you can check your calendar for the November 16th through the 18th to see if you plan on heading to Chicago, just let us know.
7.3 is the 2017-2018 final calendar. Is that right? That
Yes.
should be-
It's just informational.
Oh, I was going
Yeah.
to say, we already did that, right?
We took the emergency days out of it.
Oh, okay. I was gonna
So
say-
that's the final approved calendar,
Okay,
just so that you've seen it.
okay. Okay, 7.4, Dr. Freeman, at-risk coordinator.
Yes, we've been talking about, and you may recall, earlier this year I gave you a staffing plan. And one of the things I talked about was a part-time at-risk coordinator position. We've been able to kind of put together a good background on what we think that will look like. And I want to talk about this a little bit because I'd like to be able to move forward on hiring that individual once we get a little closer. That hire will probably occur in August. But what I plan on doing is kind of sending out what that position will entail. It is a 100-day position. As we grow in enrollment, we are also growing in our percentages of kids with needs. And that needs to be something that we address. So we've had a single RTI coordinator from the time that I came in, and that was a student population of around 1,130 students. Next year, we will be at 1,430. We have added a small high school. And so some of the things that you're going to hear from me over the course of the evening and running into the next couple of months is addressing what we need to do instructionally to be able to ensure that those students are getting what they need to get through our program. And the at-risk coordinator will work heavily with our TI students, also be somebody who can help kind of oversee and possibly even help with evaluating of personnel and coaching new teachers coming in, so that we have more direct contact that are able to work with our teaching staff as they move in and assimilate into our culture.
So
the job, you said 100 days
Yes,
a year?
yes,
And you think for next year?
yes.
So what kind of qualifications would you be looking at?
Somebody that has a good, strong background with RTI support and at-risk students. Oh, we have somebody in mind.
But I mean, it's going to be somebody, a teacher certified.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So
very-
we still post that job then?
Yeah,
So we have to do that then?
And so will you come up with a job description of what's expectations? Okay.
yes. And I'll send that out, because probably in July I'll ask to post, and then in August time. So, but that's why I wanted to put that on there, just to remind you of earlier conversations and start talking about how we're going to do this.
Any other questions on the at-risk coordinator? Okay. Moving on to 7.5 as a resignation. Let's see if this is where mine mixes up, so I can look at the Laura Riggers, social studies teacher.
Yes, we hated to see this, but we completely understand. She's making a move that she believes will benefit her family. So we have already posted for this position, and we'll probably start interviewing, if not this week, next week. We're going to move pretty quickly, so hopefully we have a recommendation to hire next.
7.6, resignation of Nathan Sidwell for the head girls soccer coach. And then, say anything about that?
That one's pretty easy to explain. He took on the head boys soccer coach and didn't feel he should be doing that.
Right. And then the resignation of Joe Waters, assistant girls basketball coach,
Yes.
and he resigned. And then the 7.8 is actually, we did that last month.
We did that last month.
Right.
It just happened to show up there again. So 7.8 is,
In case you forgot about it, we're just reminding.
yes.
Okay, 7.9, other. Is there anybody that has any other that they want to bring up?
I think we would be remiss if we didn't recognize that Morton High School baseball team won the state championship, represented the Middle Illini Conference extremely well, and they were the ones who beat us on the way to the top, so we were beaten by the winners at least. And competition that's always there, and we're not quite a rival, but they're to be commended for what they did.
Is there any other?
Yeah, so as we know, Dr. Sander is also known as Colonel Sander with the Air National Guard. Is that right?
He's getting there.
Close.
We'll have a big chicken day on this.
Okay, that's.
I might be able to arrange for some of those chickens.
And so he had the breakfast, they have the breakfast with the boss at Airbase out there, and I went out there. I have to admit, I mainly went because they take you up in a C-130, and that was awesome, and it was really cool. And but I learned a lot out there as well. And the reason they do it is because, you know, they take employees away from employers and use them for, you know, 2 weeks maybe in the year, or you know, maybe half a year. I mean, they get sent all over the world, obviously. And but they want to show appreciation to us, and so I'm sharing that from them to you guys. And they also just want to share what they do, and it's really cool. I learned a lot of things. There are, I think that our military is now about 2.1 million strong. 800,000 of them are reservists, which is incredible to know that the reservists make up such a massive portion of that. So that's really neat, thank you. And Ryan Meardy also is a reservist, so I learned that as well. And
Was he with you on the trip too?
no, he was not.
Oh.
He was not. I was out there alone, man. I was a little nervous, but it was really neat. And they also told us that they add $70 million to the local economy, which is huge.
Wow.
I mean, that's a lot of money to the local economy. So I thought it was really neat. And finally, you know, even they also advertise what great employees these guys are, which I think we know from seeing Dr. Sander and Ryan. But they just learn a lot of really precise skills out there. Like when we were up in the plane, you know, they actually opened the back of the thing. while we're strapped in there. And I mean, it's not like an airliner, and you're strapped in, and the back of it opens. And then the guys are like tethered in and hooked to the ground, and they actually walked to the edge and sat down with their legs dangling off the back of the plane.
Did they give you a parachute?
No. In fact, they encouraged us. They're like, if you see some guy walk to the back, don't just run over there and follow him.
You didn't.
No, I didn't.
It wasn't on your mind, was it?
No, but it was super cool. And to my point, those guys are called load masters. They're in charge of loading the stuff that they drop off the back of it. And they're extremely precise in everything they do, because eventually we flew all over the place. We were up there for like an hour, but I was watching them, and like every time they do something, they then undo it. Like their things and their long things that they hook onto. Like when they're done, they're just not wasting any time. They're wrapping it all up. They're putting it away. By the time the plane landed, everything was away, and they were done. So I just thought, no wonder these guys learn really precise skills, because they're sort of the tip of the spear. They don't have a lot of room for mistakes when they're on the job. So that was really neat to see.
Doctor, did you do that last
I
year?
did. It is a great experience. They open it up to administrators and to board members, and I highly recommend, if you get the chance, you should do it. Because I think they do it about every year, don't they?
Yes, they do. So we'll take dibs on next year. You can go on out, you get a breakfast out of it.
Yeah.
And then they have a whole bunch of different type briefings, and then static displays. So they have people, because we have so many different job functions out there. We have doctors, medical doctors, to guys that deploy with the special forces. And so we cover the full spectrum, and so you too can go on out there.
As long as you don't have motion sickness, you don't probably want anybody that has that.
Oh, no, there was some of that.
They do. And the loadmaster for our group, he said when he was introducing it, he said there's no shame in getting sick. He said he told us that his first 6 times he got sick, actually, until he got used to it. Because those planes, so they let you go up.
Did you get sick?
No.
Good.
So I was super close, though. They bank it. I mean, they're messing with you a little bit. You're flying and you look out the window and you see the ground. I mean, it's not like you look and you see the ground. I mean, they're turning and the ground is right there.
That was just you, Brian, everybody else.
It might have been. But you also go up into the cockpit and it's all windows, and it's while you're flying, and it's really cool. So yeah. So I highly encourage it. I question the sensibility of eating a big greasy breakfast and then going up in that plane.
That's part of the whole.
It was pretty fun, and it's good.
You have to eat.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you had that opportunity. It sounds like it was an amazing.
It
We'll
was
be
neat.
fighting for it next year.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Sander, for inviting me. I have one other thing, just on the Hall of Fame committee, members updated, if we could get our webpage fixed. I think it was done in April, and there's just one inaccuracy.
Still the same one?
Yeah.
Got it asked a couple times.
That's
so
fine. I just thought,
we'll get
I'd
it fixed.
just remind you. So. Any other? Moving on to the consent agenda. Before we do that, I just want to pull out the 8.12 Facilities Committee meeting minutes, because I just want to add in those things that Dr. Freeman and I discussed on Friday. So the consent agenda, let me see how this reads. The recommendation, the Board of Education approved the consent agenda as 8.11, 8.13, 8.14, and those are all part of the resolution of 8.1, resolution of 8.2, resolution of 8.3, and resolution of 8.4. Is there a motion to accept those that I just read?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion on any of those? Did anybody else need any other ones pulled out? Roll call, please.
McNutt,
Yes.
Armstrong,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing,
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Then we need to talk about making a motion for the Facilities Committee meeting minutes of May 30th, just to add those 2 items. As a number 4 was, we discussed the alternate bid for the track lanes expansion with Farnsworth, and Farnsworth will assess and provide options for track modifications for an alternate bid. I'll give it to you.
Okay.
And then the other one had, the bid that we had out for bid would include number 5, a bid breakout for alternatives along with the stadium price. It was separate with the dirt work across from Street on Jefferson.
About the bid, or is that a study? It was-
It was
a
gonna be-
study. The first one.
They were discussing an alternate for bid.
But they're gonna pull it out and do it separate, right?
Which one are you asking for?
Track modification or something, or are you talking about the?
Farnsworth was going to assess and provide options for track modifications. They were going to assess it, right?
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Study,
It's
yeah.
not in the
Yeah.
ball.
It's not in the bid, no.
Right, yeah, that's,
Right.
yeah.
They're looking at it.
It was gonna
Yeah.
hold up the
Yeah,
process,
so,
is what,
yeah,
is
so
that right?
we'll
So
put
we
it
can-
in.
Yeah, no, it's not,
It's not completely out, it's just not part of, is that right?
they're studying, I was trying to write this so
No, that's-
properly.
no,
But
it's- I-
Farnsworth will assess and provide options for track modifications.
So what I would suggest is we pull it out, I'll get it into next month's with the updates that you mentioned.
Okay, that'll work.
I don't think you want to try to amend it right here because it's,
Okay, that's
I'm gonna make
fine.
sure the verbiage is right.
Okay, that's fine.
So that was 812?
8.1.2.
You'll need to pull that one out. That's just removed. I didn't know we could just remove it. Okay, perfect. Well, now I know that. Okay, action items number 9, personnel, certified employment. There's an approved employment for John Clifford, who is an art teacher.
Probably what you just say. So you just have an action a second and move it to next month's agenda so you don't run into this.
Oh,
issue.
okay, okay.
So we'll just table it, so
Okay.
to speak.
So is there a motion, I'll make the motion to table 8.12 Facilities Committee meeting minutes to next month. Is there a second? Okay, and then roll call?
Ward,
Yes.
Essing. Yes. Butler. Fisher.
Yes.
McNutt.
Yes.
Armstrong.
Yes.
Have we both done consent agenda?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we pulled that out first. Okay, now we're moving on to action items, which is personnel and certified employment. It's 8.1. Okay, I don't have, or 9.1. When I bring it up, it was.
John Clifford, teacher.
Oh, okay.
Is that one?
Sorry. The recommendation is that the WCHS Board of Education approve the employment of John Clifford as an art teacher for the 2018-19 school year at a salary per the negotiated contract. Is there a motion to approve the recommendation as read?
I move. Second.
Motion and second. Discussion? Okay. Did you have quite a few applicants and?
We had 4 more applicants that applied for that position. We were able to come up with, John did a very nice job. We started with a phone interview, and then he came in and met with us again on, actually, the Saturday of the Rotary Club pancake breakfast. And Mr. Tomlin was able to give him a tour. We were able to talk a little bit further. We think he'll do a nice job.
Dr. Freeman, are you seeing the teacher shortage that you put out? Fulton? I thought so.
Yes, we're just not seeing the numbers that we once did. I mean, we're still a desirable location for teachers, so we get good applicants, but it's not a pretty thing. I will tell you, I think this year we found how many, and I don't remember, Dr. Sander, do you remember, was it a little over 1,000 people took the test of basic skills this year?
Well, I don't know.
It was low, not low. Thank you, Mrs. Casulo. My numbers are fairly accurate. She was shaking her head back there. And I think about a third of them pass it. So you're looking at about 300 people that pass that test.
Well, if you look at the test,
It's rough.
they're not doing us any favors.
No, they're not. They did a
Because
lot
I've
of
seen the
damage to
test.
us. Yeah. So it's not getting, it's gonna get worse before it gets better. So,
good news.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
McNabb,
Yes.
Armstrong.
Yes.
Motion carries. Moving on to non-certified employment, 9.12A, approve the employment of Brent Shipley for maintenance and activity worker. That's what, can you do one at the same time? And then also 9.12B, approve the employment of Aaron Wright, maintenance and activity worker. And
You have their information. However, when we bargained, we talked about the fact that when Bruce retired, we were going to have to replace that position with two. We just don't have enough people to cover all the activities that we do. And that's what it basically boiled down to, especially over weekends. And so this was something that we talked with the union about, and both sides felt it was a good move, so.
I think, Dr. Singer, I mean, they've done a good job of laying out the coverage map. I think that helps eliminate some of the overtime. I think from a better service such board that's not quite the cost you might think. Number one, I think.
well, a lot of the overtime,
Yeah.
some of them were getting incredible numbers of overtime and also burnout.
Yeah, it's rough, 70 hours a week, working both Saturdays and Sundays. It's tough on everybody, so.
Thanks for the explanation. Any further discussion?
So,
Sorry.
during the school year, there'll be those 4 9-hour days. And then
Correct.
summer, are you finding that they're gonna, because they'll start here, if they haven't already, right? Are they gonna work a regular shift then? with the-
Yeah, they'll shift in with the regular maintenance help as we go through the summer.
Roll call, please.
Fisher,
Yes.
McNabb,
Yes.
Armstrong,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries. On to 9.13, extracurricular employment. Those who can give me one
Okay.
again.
Let me ask this.
All right.
How do you have it on your sheet, do you have them all with separate motions?
Just one.
And I will go that way.
Okay. So we've got 9.13 extracurricular employment, 9.13A, approve employment of Stacy Beckman of the GSA sponsor, 9.13B, approve employment of Joe Waters as the head girls soccer coach, 9.13C, approve the employment of Nate Sidwell as boys head soccer coach, 9.13D, approve the employment of Nick Beard as assistant football coach, 9.13E, approve the employment of Emily Eckstein,
Yes.
assistant Pathrettes coach, and that's all I can do on this one. Is there a motion to approve this as presented? So moved. Motion and second. Any further discussion on these positions?
Dr. Freeman, is Stacy Beckman an employee?
Yes. She was
Social
a
worker?
township social worker,
Right, I thought so.
assigned here, yes.
Yes.
And Joe Waters is an employee.
Yes.
Nick Sidwell, Nick Beard,
Yes.
and
Emily has been a longtime assistant Pathrettes coach. So, she was a volunteer prior to becoming a paid assistant.
any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Armstrong,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
McNabb.
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you. Retirement requests, 9.14. There's a motion, or the Washington Board of Education approved Jim Tanakin's notice of intent to retire for the end of 2020-21 school year as indicated in this letter. Is there a motion to approve as recommended by administration?
I move.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? You just put in for retirement
Yes,
for
he
those
did.
years?
Yes.
Okay. Roll call, please.
McNabb,
Yes.
Armstrong,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing,
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you. We got another page here. I thought we were at the end. 9.3, approve the 2018-19 tentative budget. Okay, so I gotta go off this. My notes is different than, right, okay. 9.2, the board approved the resolution authorizing the transfer of 1.40658 from the education fund to the operation and maintenance fund to increase the fund balances for the future maintenance and improvement work involving district facilities, equipment, and transportation assets. Is our motion to approve this recommendation?
I move that the Board of Education approve the resolution authorizing the transfer of $1,540,658 from the education fund to the O&M fund as recommended.
Right.
Any further discussion? This is what Dr. Sanders has been talking about, and we've chosen to do. Roll call, please.
Essig?
Yes.
Fisher?
Yes.
McNabb?
Yes.
Armstrong?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. 9.3. This is for the tentative budget. It is on there, and the recommendation is the Board of Education approve the 2018-19 tentative budget. Is there a motion to approve, the Board of Education approve the 2018-19 tentative budget?
So moved.
Motion and second. Any further discussion?
Well, I was prepared to go line by line, but I think I'll just jump to this here. You will see a posting in the paper this next week that has this timeline in here because we have to post it. And then this is just a reminder that from June 12th to about September 10th, the board will review the tentative budget, and then at the September 10th meeting, we will have formal action, a hearing and formal action on the FY19 budget.
So, back in April, you reviewed this with the Finance Committee.
Yes.
And, you know, obviously you've been able to plug in some salary numbers and so on, and then, you know, adjust the insurance for how we've seen it, how that progresses. But are there any other big changes to it from April?
There will be some changes once we get our bids back. Then we'll have to start going through the drill of how are we going to allocate our funds? Where are we going to, we'll end up having to transfer funds from the O&M to capital projects. But then we've got a drawdown schedule, but that's based off of estimates. So we'll be working with PJ Hare when we get to the bid opening and we start seeing what projects are going to cost, how much money we need to transfer for this next year. We won't transfer all of that money. We'll let some of that money work for us in investments. But then we do have some more work that will need to be done. We also have, you know, the fund balance. We've got the bond proceeds and working cash and fund balance that we'll need to sit there and say, okay, how much are we going to set aside for the projects that will take place in FY19? There will still be a lot of costs that take place in FY20. Can't believe that we're already at FY20 having those conversations.
But going back to your original assumptions, I think what you're finding is the actual cost, or what's kind of what we solidified in the bargaining committee, or whatever, the contracts in line with what you assumed. So I think that you really haven't seen any material changes.
Correct.
It's just, you were right.
The only thing that we have
Your
to
forecast
spend
was
for
right.
the better, with the insurance premiums going down for a member, you know, that portion is, I don't want to say insignificant because a 6% decrease is significant, right? But for the district, 6% on, you know, more than $1 million is a large amount of money. And so that is all savings to the ed fund. And so those are the good things that we're looking at doing.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Fisher?
Yes.
McNabb?
Yes.
Armstrong?
Yes.
Ward?
Yes.
Essig?
Yes.
Motion carries. 9.4, approve the resolution to adopt the regulatory basis of accounting.
This is what we do every year. And it's also the engagement, or excuse me, then it'll be followed up by another one on the engagement letter, and that's to authorize the auditor to start doing their work.
Is there a motion?
Is this the one that Tim Custis explained to us when he was still on the board
Yes.
about the change, and this was that change?
It basically says that we have to follow the rules, and this is our resolution that says these are the rules that we're following.
Motion to approve the resolution to adopt the regulatory basis of accounting and as recommended.
So,
Second. Motion second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
McNatt,
Yes.
Armstrong.
yes.
Motion carries. 9.5.
What you have here is a list of vendors or contractors that we do a regular business with, so we ask the board to go ahead and pre-approve so that we can pay our Ameren bill and what, prior to, but then it's recorded at the next board meeting. So you will see all of these bills and the board bills, but these are our constant renewals.
It's not prepaid before services are rendered, it's prepaid before it's needed, right?
It's just so that we don't have to wait once a month.
Right.
And then we get inundated with phone calls saying, how come we haven't received our payment yet?
You're in arrears.
Kind of
Yes.
mess up the relationship. So that's-
Right, good question.
And that last line there, that means also, once we engage in the construction process, everything like that will be kind of auto-paid as well?
All other contracted
These are just like your
services.
It's kind of
telephone
an
bill.
ongoing monthly operational
Right.
thing.
And this is like trash and water.
Not one time only.
Okay, because I saw that, for example, contracts for construction. That last line.
Or is that the, we got a monthly?
I just didn't know what that meant.
It's the contract with,
Because what construction would we do on a regular basis?
We don't, this is just saying that, that if we engage in a contract, we will set a time for them
I think,
to bill
the
us.
engineering and the architects,
Right.
it's we pay as we go kind of thing. So they
Correct.
need to get a little out of the monthly cycle. Not for $1 million building, whatever, or something.
Okay, so that's an exception to this?
Yes.
Okay.
It's saying all outside.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Is there a motion to approve the resolution to prepay the reoccurring bills from the approved vendors as recommended?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
McNatt,
Yes.
Armstrong,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
Motion carries. 9.6.
This is our motion to engage our auditor for their work that will come up in July.
Is there a motion for the Board of Education to approve the letter of engagement with Koch
Cook
Cook
Consultants.
Consultants Ltd. as recommended?
So,
Second.
Motion second. Roll call, please.
Essing,
Yes.
Fisher,
Yes.
McNatt,
Yes.
Armstrong,
yes.
Ward,
Yes. Motion carries. 9.7, approve the milk and bread and trash removal bids.
So I gave the board an update when we had our bid openings, and so for trash, Waste Management got the bid, and it was under, I think it was under $1 difference in the bids. Bakery products, this one's a little bit, there's multiple items that they bid on, but when we sat down, we figured out what we spend the most on. Our recommendation is Alpha Baking and then Prairie Farms. We had been with Prairie Farms for a number of years, and then last year we were with Central Illinois Produce. Same deal here. Kids aren't drinking milk as much, so we can't just take the price of what the little cartons of milk are. Milkshake mix. They eat a lot of that, and that in Prairie Farms was cheaper. And so that's our recommendation to go with Prairie Farms. And an assortment of other items, not just calling out the milkshake mix.
Is there a motion to approve the contracts for the products and services as recommended?
Second.
second. Roll call, please.
Armstrong.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Essing.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
McNabb.
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you. 9.8, approve the bids for the yearbook services.
And once again, we had great response on this. We had 5 bids or proposals submitted. I just want to point out to the board, this is not a money-making, it's not a cost thing. We keep the costs almost identical. What we charge for a yearbook is almost identical to our cost. When we look at, the admin has had discussion about how to breathe some life into the yearbook committee, which is led by students. One of the ideas is, making it like a class, an independent study class. And our recommendation is go with Johnston's. They provided a tremendous amount of resources that was included in their bid, a lot of different type curriculum materials, and then additional videos that could be incorporated into such a project like that. And so it's going to keep our yearbook far below what other districts around Central Illinois are charging for yearbooks.
It's also a very reputable company.
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve the contract for yearbooks and services as recommended?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Fisher.
Yes.
McNabb.
Yes.
Armstrong.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Essing.
Yes.
Motion carries, thank you. 9.9, approve the Teamworks as a PE uniform vendor as the 2018-19 school year. You know those go out to bid, and some years Runs get it, and some years Teamwork get it. So this year, it looks as if Teamwork was a lower bid on this package. Is there a motion to approve Teamworks as the 2018-19 PE uniform vendors at the cost of $14 per uniform and the student purchase price of $14?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Please.
Ward.
Yes.
Essing.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
McNabb.
Yes.
Armstrong.
Yes.
Motion carries. 9.10, approve the property and casualty insurance bids.
Yeah, and I lumped in property casualty insurance and cyber insurance. In this, cyber insurance is new. When you're bidding, when you're asking for proposals for insurance, there's only a couple major players that provide property and casualty insurance. So even though I could reach out to 15 different agents, they would have to, one would take selective, and you can't have multiple agents bid on the selective insurance. Does that make sense? And so that's why we only sought out 2 different groups. One provided a bid on Liberty, and the other one was on selective, and Calendar & Co. was the low proposal for our property and casualty. The cyber, and I spoke with our agent that did present a bid for cyber insurance, and I spoke with him today and told him what our decision was, and he was very comfortable with it. He said, hey, that's what you need to do. You need to go with an insurance provider or an underwriter that has written school cyber insurance before, especially have some sort of exposure or experience here in Central Illinois, and that's what I tried to include. Some of the districts have had to utilize their cyber insurance, and so Beasley is the insurance that we're bringing forward. This is a little bit more expensive, a couple $100 more for the annual premium, but we're getting into the cyber insurance market.
Probably not a bad thing from some of the cyber
It's a necessity now.
hacking and type of things that's been going on with schools. So, motion to approve the proposals for insurance services as recommended.
So,
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Fisher.
Yes.
McNabb.
Yes.
Armstrong.
yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Essing.
Yes.
Motion carries. 9.11, approve senior recognition system for graduates. This we've spent quite a bit of time talking about, and Dr. Freeman did a nice presentation on it and answered a lot of questions, and it's something that we've been talking about for many years, going away from the top 10 and going to the Latin system.
I think too, it was very positive that something that we saw originally as perhaps controversial in the community because of the way we always done it. When we looked at parents, faculty, board, administration, it turned out to be something that we saw as a very positive move for our students and goals, that we can reach better education, we need more options by doing it this way. And also something that's becoming more and more popular with high schools to go with a college or university system of recognizing honor work, honor level work.
Is there a motion to approve the Latin system for the senior recognition beginning with the class of 2021? So that would be the sophomores now? Or, yeah, freshmen just going into sophomore,
Yeah.
correct?
Last year's freshman
It's
class.
hard to get where we exactly are at that. I'm sure they'd tell you what year they're graduating. As recommended. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion and second. Further discussion?
I just have one comment. These numbers that we have placed, are those going to be sort of flexible over the years as we see how many, what percentage of kids? I guess my thought is that as we add more honors classes, some of those numbers are going to go higher and we're going to see more like 15% or more in the top category. Is that kind of our goal, or? I mean, did we look at percentages, or how did we really come up
We
with
did,
that?
we looked at percentages. We based it off of the graduating class. And the base number that we're looking at right now, that 3.5 is tied to our gold cords, which we increased. Remember, we drew that up a couple of years ago. So this year's junior class will actually be impacted by that change in the gold cords. Yet, anything that we do can be changed, yes.
I just
So-
think that we might see, particularly that top number, to me, it seems like maybe that should be like a top 10%, just because I think that's what colleges generally look at, your percentages. And the way it lays now, it's not quite that, based on the numbers you gave us, so that, we got to start somewhere, but I guess my thought was maybe we reevaluate it in a couple of years and see how those numbers are looking.
I think that's reasonable, and I do think we'll need to look at. I think that's something that you're going to evaluate over time as your classes kind of ebb and flow.
Right. Well, we wouldn't want to change it every year, but I mean, just,
Yeah. No, it's
We gotta start
like
somewhere,
a
but-
multi-year review,
Right.
where you're looking at the trends and saying, okay. Because you might have a class that comes in that's just very academically talented and large
some years
numbers
it's
of
going to be
kids.
obviously
Yeah.
more than others.
Valedictorians.
No, I think with this, we'll have probably 30 or 40 in the top
Recognition.
echelon, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Did we ever get in the finals for this year to compare or?
Mhm.
Okay. So I have
And it was right in line.
Okay.
Actually, traditionally, the second semester is not as good as the first.
So summertime's right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Essing.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
McNutt.
Yes.
Armstrong.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes. Motion carries. 9.12, 912. That would be approved registration fees for the 2018-19 school year. We've talked about this a few times, and Joe, did you want to tell us? Well, we did live, you gave a presentation on it. So, yeah. Is there a motion to approve the student registration rate for $100 for the 2018-19 school year as recommended?
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
McNutt.
Yes.
Armstrong.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Essing.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you. 913, approved 2018-19 WCHS student handbook changes. This was an informational item about a month ago or so, and everyone's had a chance to get feedback. And is there a motion to approve the changes for the 2018-19 WCHS student handbook as recommended? So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Roll call, please.
McNutt.
Yes.
Armstrong.
Yes.
Essing.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Fisher.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries, thank you. Moving on to 1914, approve substitute pay rate for the 2018-19 school year.
So moved.
Motion and a second? Second. Second. Any further discussion?
How does this compare to the 3 grade school districts?
Pretty well known. The 4 superintendents sat down and talked about this. I do believe 52 is looking at a different, more, a stratified approach based on how many times somebody subbed within the building. So,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
That's savvy.
And so that was, it's a unique approach. It'll be interesting to see. I think that'll work out pretty well for them on their base subs. We just decided to go with this approach. I mean, it's been 10, maybe 15, well, it's been a while.
Since I've been here, it's been at $85.
It's going up to 95 now, so.
Yeah. And I think as our neighbors around us are scrambling for subs, this is going to be pretty important to us as well, that we stay competitive.
Okay, roll call please.
Fisher,
Yes.
Weezer,
Yes.
Armstrong,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
Leslie.
Yes. Motion carries. Last item on here is executive session number 10. And this is for appointment and compensation, discipline, performance, and dismissal of a specific employee of the district or legal counsel to the district, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against the employee or against the legal counsel for the district for the determinant its validity. Is there a motion to go into executive session? Second. Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Ward,
Yes.
Essing, Fisher,
Yes.
McNabb.
Yes.
Armstrong.
Yes.
Motion carries. That's all we have.
There will be action.
Oh, there was?
Yes.
Okay, and number 11, there will be action following the executive session.
I think it's